Good day, everyone, and welcome to the laboratory orientation of the histology of the skin. The skin is composed of two layers. We have epidermis and the dermis. Epidermis, in this high power magnification, uh, this is the epidermis from the tip of the pointer up to this area, and this is the dermis. In this slide, on the right side of the monitor, from this tip of the pointer up to this area, is your um, epidermis, and this one is the dermis. Okay, this is the thick skin. Thick skin is the epidermis has 5 layers, and the dermis has 2 layers as well. In this high power magnification, you have 5 layers of the epidermis in the thick skin, and you have 2 layers of the dermis. Okay, the first layer is the stratum corneum. Now, this is the outermost layer of the epidermis. The next would be the stratum lucidum. This is the pinkish structure between the stratum corneum and the stratum granulosum. Stratum granulosum it is composed of 3 to 5 layers of basophilic in staining cells. Uh, this is the stratum granulosum. The next layer is the thickest of the epidermis layer. This is the stratum spinosum. And lastly, the layer that is adherent to the dermis that is found on the basement membrane is the stratum basale. Okay, another picture of your epidermis, your thick skin, would be this is the stratum corneum. The pinkish structure is the stratum lucidum. Stratum granulosum is this layer right here, the middle layer. And beneath the granulosum is the stratum spinosum. And lastly is the stratum basale that lie on the basement membrane. So let's first discuss the innermost layer, that's the stratum basale. The stratum basale is a single layer of keratinocytes on the basement membrane, and they are capable of mitosis. Melanocytes are found in here. These are the clear cells with a basal layer and dark nuclei. So basically, these are the keratinocytes, the one with the pale looking cytoplasm with clear cells in the basal layer with dark nuclei are the melanocytes. They secrete melanin. The keratinocytes secrete keratin. In stratum spinosum, all you need to remember is the presence of tonofibrils. These tonofibrils will help these keratinocytes intact together because of these desmosomes. These are actually the intercellular bridges that is very specific with stratum spinosum. And as I mentioned, stratum spinosum is the thickest layer of the epidermis. In here, next is the stratum granulosum. This is a 3 to 5 layers of cells. The keratinocytes that are found here contain keratohyalin granules. This is the dark stained granules specifically found in this stratum granulosum. Next, stratum lucidum is the thin translucent zone seen only in the thick skin. The keratinocytes are densely packed with eladin, which are your keratin precursor. This is very specific to stratum lucidum. And the outermost layer is the stratum corneum. This is up to 30 layers of dead, scaly keratinized cells, and these surface cells flake off or exfoliate. Prominent in thick skin of the palms and soles and corresponding fingers and toes. So this is the outermost layer, thick skin. As a summary, stratum corneum is described as continuously shed. It consists of 15 to 20 layers of flattened, non-nucleated keratinized cell. Stratum lucidum is only found in thick skin. This is a translucent layer of flattened eosinophilic cells containing eladin. Stratum granulosum is a 3 to 5 layer of flattened polygonal cells which contains your keratohyalin granules. Stratum spinosum, on the other hand, is the thickest epidermal layer. This polyhedral cells synthesizing keratin filaments which will form bundles called your tonofibrils which converge and terminate as your desmosomes. And stratum basale is a single layer of basophilic columnar cuboidal cells which lie on the basement membrane. In this stratum, also in this sublayer of epidermis, it has an intense mitotic activity. Please take note that if you combine stratum spinosum and stratum basale, you will come up with stratum germinativum. Alright, these are the cells of the epidermis. The parenchyma of the epidermis of the skin, which produces keratin, are the keratinocyte. Melanocytes, on the other hand, is found in the basal layer and junctional zone of the dermis. They contain tyrosinase for melanin synthesis. It is described as having a pale-looking clear cell cytoplasm. The Langerhans cells are found specifically in the stratum spinosum. They are your dendritic cells containing rod-shaped granules for immunity, and this Langerhans cell serves as your antigen-presenting cells. Your Merkel cells is the last cell in the epidermis, which are found in the basal layer as well, and they are responsible for the touch receptor. Okay, this is another, again, a picture of the thick skin showing you the 5 layers of the thick skin under the epidermis. Okay, let's go now to the dermis. Dermis is composed of 2 layers. You have papillary dermis and the reticular dermis. Papillary dermis is exhibited after the epidermis, right beneath the epidermis, and usually you will find loose connective tissue in this area. The reticular dermis is also known as your dermis proper. It is exhibited by having a dense, irregular connective tissue. In the dermis proper, you will find different skin appendages. Okay. Sweat gland is one skin appendage, no, that are found in the dermis. This is described, its morphology is simple coiled tubular gland. And if you notice, these are the sweat glands, which are your dark staining structures with ducts. So this is what you call your sweat gland duct, and these are your sweat glands. The nature or type of secretion is serous. The mechanism of release of the excretory products is through merocrine, and the morphology of sweat glands is simple coiled tubular. Encircled with the red in color is the sweat glands. And if you notice, if these are the sweat glands, these are the ducts of the sweat glands ready to be released or ready to be excreted. This is also an example of your sweat glands. If you notice, there's dark staining structure. We will compare this one to another gland in the dermis. Okay, let's go now to your thin skin. Your thin skin, its epidermis has only 4 layers. Stratum corneum, stratum granulosum, stratum spinosum, and stratum basale. There is no stratum lucidum in the thin skin. The dermis of the thin skin has also 2 layers. So the papillary layer and the reticular layer. Okay, in the thin skin, it's less than 5 layers as I mentioned. The entire body is composed of thin skin except for the palms and for the soles. Hair follicles are also found in the thin skin except in the following. You have the lips, labia minora, and glans penis. There are thin skin, they have hair follicles present in the thin skin except for the mentioned organs. Okay, this is a thin skin. The following are the 4 layers: the stratum corneum, stratum granulosum, where keratohyalin granules are found. Stratum spinosum still is the thickest epidermal layer, and this is the stratum basale, located just above the papillary layer of the dermis. This is a papillary layer of the dermis, which is composed of a loose connective tissue, And this is the dermis proper. As I mentioned, it is dense, irregular connective tissue. When we ask what is the parenchyma, what is the fundamental type of tissue of the papillary layer of the dermis, it is connective tissue. Its subtype is connective tissue proper, and the specific subtype is loose connective tissue. On the other hand, reticular layer of the dermis, its fundamental type of tissue is still connective tissue. Its subtype is connective tissue proper, and the specific subtype is dense, irregular connective tissue. Okay, encircled structure right here is found at the dermal papillary layer of the dermis. Its function is for fine touch, and this structure is called your Meissner's corpuscles. Okay, pilosebaceous unit is composed of three structures: hair follicle, arrector pili muscle, which is a smooth muscle, and these are your sebaceous glands. Sebaceous glands, its nature or type of secretion is mucus. And if you would compare it to your sweat glands are dark staining, while the sebaceous gland is lighter in staining. One clue that this is a sebaceous gland, it's because they are located near the hair follicle. The mechanism of release of this excretory product of the sebaceous glands are through holocrine, meaning there is a complete damage of the glands if there is release of excretory products. The morphology of sebaceous gland is simple branched acinar. Okay, this is just a comparison between thin skin and thick skin. Histological skin type is thin and thick. Location of your thin skin is everywhere except for the penis, lips, and the thick skin are only found in the palms and in the soles. In the epidermal layer, there is no stratum lucidum in thin skin, while in the thick skin, the five sublayers of epidermis are found. In the dermal appendages, only the sweat glands are found in both thin and thick skin. The sebaceous glands, as well as hair follicles, are only found in the thin skin. Alright, and that concludes the laboratory orientation of the histology of the skin.